Even in holistic health circles, everybody wears glasses and people don't really think about their vision until it's too late. We would not pay all this money to make our condition worse. Yet people that wear glasses can attest to the fact that their vision hasn't gotten better. We don't really look like what caused the blur in the first place. To me, it's like the symptomatic Band-Aid approach.
Is eyesight decline truly inevitable? Can we prevent the decline of our eyesight over time?
Vision is so related to the nervous system. When we are relaxed, our vision is best. When we are stressed, everybody's vision is blurry. Maybe there's physical things happening in your eyeball. It doesn't mean that you cannot optimize your vision. It always starts with
Today, we are tackling one of the most overlooked pillars of our health and longevity, our eyesight, our vision. Rates of myopia are exploding. People are wearing glasses more frequently and younger than ever before. And most of us assume that vision decline is just part of getting older. And maybe that's true. But what if it isn't? Joining me today is Claudia Muehlenweg, a leading voice in natural vision restoration, to reveal how to protect and even improve our eyesight in a screen-saturated world. So, Claudia, it's great to have you on the show and to explore this overlooked issue when it comes to our health and longevity.
Thank you for having me. And I do call it a blind spot, pun intended, because even in holistic health circles or functional medicine, everybody wears glasses and people don't really think about their vision until it's too late.
Yes. I mean, we've just had a fascinating interview with Dr. Elmer Young in the UK, who's a holistic dentist and looking at natural approaches to dental care. But it seems that anytime we look at natural approaches to anything, the mainstream pulls back and smears and calls out, all kinds of names and wondrous top titles to dismiss someone's work. How have you faced this topic as someone looking at natural vision? Have you had challenges in terms of bringing this information forward that you're going to share with us today?
Definitely. All vision improvement work is really based on the Bates method. And Dr. Bates was an ophthalmologist and he was a professor. And he actually discovered created an ear surgery that we still use today. I mean, he was super esteemed. But when he talked about over 100 years ago about improving vision, which he was the curious person, the doctor was like, why are some of my patients improving their vision? Like, I didn't learn this. He was kicked out of the American Academy of Ophthalmology. And obviously, when you go to Wikipedia, you would see something like that doesn't work. And then I hear Andrew Huberman talk about so many things that Dr. Bates talked about. That is part of what I teach, where I'm like, finally, things are turning around. And Bates was not a person who would oppose all traditional approaches. And same with me. Sometimes I tell people, you should probably get the surgery. So I'm definitely not the person who would say, oh, Western medicine is bad. Because we really need the yin and yang. We really need both to see success. And thankfully, in many cases, we have surgeries that can prevent total vision loss, right? But it's so much better to take care of your eyes before it gets to that point and avoid those things.
Yes. So what's driving this global myopia epidemic? What's causing the decline of vision, people's eye health? You would have thought in the world of science and medicine, we would be seeing improvements, but it seems like we're seeing a decline. Why is that?
I love that question because one thing I always ask too is like, in any other branch of medicine or, when it comes to this world, we would not pay all this money to make our condition worse. Yet people that wear glasses all can attest to the fact that their vision hasn't gotten better, right? You're following the treatment advice, you're doing exactly what to do, and yet it gotten worse. So I think there are several factors. One of the things that people always blame vision loss on is like screen use. And screens are definitely not great for our eyes, but I use screens all day long. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think the one of the main culprits is too much near work combined with not getting natural sunlight. So you talked about myopia epidemic, for instance, right? We now know from so many studies that a lack of natural light kind of creates that you have, for those of you viewing and not just listening, I have a gummy, like a rubber eyeball here. So in myopia, your eyeball is elongated, and they believe that the lack of natural light kind of creates that elongation of the eyeball, dopamine receptors in the retina, like it's a whole complicated process. But when they looked at children, for instance, playing outside 2 or more hours each day, compared to those that were like the studious, the bookworms, doing their homework, academic, process, or we talk college myopia, right? You spend all these hours, not just indoors, but also there's pressure. It's like you're studying. It's not like a relaxing thing that you're doing. You know what I mean? So it's that studying, the pressure, the stress, and then being too much indoors is definitely a leading cause of, especially myopia.
Yeah, that hits hard today because it's been raining heavily in the UK. Plus, I've been desk bound with a lot of work on my desk today, so I definitely will pop out after this session to get some natural daylight. Before we continue, I just want to let you know at home that if you enjoy this discussion, you'll get the chance to meet Claudia and myself at the Health Optimization Summit taking place in London on the 13th to the 14th of September. Going to be one of the most fantastic events in Europe when it comes to health and longevity. There's over 35 amazing speakers, including Claudia, who you'll get to meet. So if you'd like to find out more about that, go to weareelevate.org/health summit. And you can use the term elevate to get 10% off your ticket. So Claudia, is eyesight decline truly inevitable? Can we prevent the decline of our eyesight over time, or is this a modern cultural phenomena?
I think we totally can. When we think of other areas of health, like bone loss or strength loss, like we have to kind of, I don't like the word work, but we have to be even more vigilant as we get older, right? Like when it comes to bone loss, muscle strength, like all these things. I noticed that I'm in my 60s now. And I was like, not COVID, which kind of put a damper on a lot of our routines in terms of fitness. I definitely noticed, because I didn't really exercise on the same level in terms of strength training than I used to do before. I was like, oh man, I can't really lift this anymore. It's heavy, like the suitcase. I can't, lift the 70-pound suitcase like I used to. And so same with vision. When we don't take care of our eyes, then we will definitely experience vision losses. Now, I'm not saying that you will never, I have more wrinkles than I had in my 20s and 30s and 40s, right? Our bodies do change. But when you look at, there's 100-year-olds that can read small print, right? Like I'm thinking there's 100-year-olds that run marathons. So we know it's possible. We just have to be very determined. Like I always tell my clients, where is your big why? Why do you care about your vision? Like, why is it even important to you? Because, like everything in life, it's priorities. It's understanding what's going on, first of all, and then making it a priority for yourself. You know what I mean? So when we do that, I think to a certain degree, it's 100% preventable. I'm not sure if you get to over 100, maybe we all get a cataract at some point. You know what I mean? But I think there's so much we can do to prevent that.
That's exciting. This leads me to a question actually about genetics and the role of genetics, because when I see someone who has what I would describe as, abnormal health in their latter years, which is a great thing, with some outstanding health. There are clearly people who have worked at that, but then, I know people even in my own family who, they smoked all their life. They didn't particularly lead healthy lives, but they lived a long life, and there must be some genetic factors that play a role. What's the balance between genetics and our own habits when it comes to our eye health? And can even our habits override some genetics? Because I've seen that again in other areas. So I'm very curious to know the role of genetics and what they lay out for us, but are they limiting factors? I'm really curious to explore.
Well, genetics definitely do play a role. And we have to differentiate between so-called refractive errors, which is myopia, so nearsightedness, farsightedness, stigmatism. Those are vision problems that are corrected with glasses or contacts or like LASIK surgery, those kind of things, right? Where it's how the light is refracted through the cornea and the lens onto the retina. That's different from eye diseases like glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration. There's definitely genetic components. Like we have basically babies can be born with cataracts. And I also know there is something called juvenile macular degeneration where, I had a friend who had that. She was like 18 and then, she lost her central vision. So that, or retinitis pigmentosa is an eye disease. That is definitely a genetic trait, especially when people get that in their as a kid or even as a young adult. Like there's definitely genetic components. We also have so-called functional, how the eyes work together. So that's like double vision, like amblyopia, lazy eye. I had a squint as a kid, right? The eyes are turning in or out. So that could definitely be genetic. That could also be from pregnancy. So I'm not able to tell you the exact percentages, but when it comes to refractive errors, I would say 90% is really lifestyle, maybe even copying parents. It's also emotional things, personality traits. Like there's all these factors coming together. Maybe you're already a shy kid who likes to study, so maybe you get rewarded for studying as a kid, versus playing outside and breaking things. So there might be a genetic tendency more like in the personality versus the actual genetics, meaning your eyeball is, growing too long. Like it's already too long when you were born. Does that make sense? So, but yeah, with certain eye diseases, we definitely see like young adults or babies even born with them. And that's definitely genetics.
Okay, but then can we override some of those genetics with certain practices? Can we improve our health despite some of those potential genetic eye health specifically, despite those genetic predispositions?
I definitely think so. Within the realm of what's possible with genetic, if you already have macular degeneration as a child, yes, you can still diet, all these things still make a difference. Light exposure, sleep, diet definitely still make a difference, but to what degree? I don't know. I know there is another vision teacher out there who was born with cataracts, and he's in his 70s, I think now. So they removed his lenses. They never gave him replacement lenses. He still has a driver's license, so he can still drive. Does he have 20/20 vision? No, but he is able to drive. So even without lenses in his eyes, right? We still have a focusing ability. So there is still, I always say we have to think about I like the word optimal vision. Like what is, based on your certain scenario, what is the optimal possible vision that you can have despite your eyeball potentially having issues? So I always say eyeball is like 10%, and then 90% is lifestyle, habits, even visual imagination, memory, like because we see in the brain, we don't see in the eyeball. And if you don't have eyeballs, right, then there's a limitation in terms of, but I love how Oliver Sacks wrote in his book, The Mind's Eye. He talked about this Australian guy, forgot the guy's name, Tory or something, who had a freak accident at like 20 years old. So he had vision for 20 years and he kept using his visual imagination, visualization skills so that his visual cortex, they showed that it didn't shrink. Like normally when you lose your vision, like your visual cortex in the brain shrinks because you don't use that part. But he was even able to repair his own roof, being completely blind. And the neighbor was like, wait, what is he doing on his roof? But because he kept up the visualization skills. So he kept using his visual cortex as if he was still seeing. So basically, you know what I mean? So we have a lot of ability, but so that's the difference to me. It's like, yes, maybe there is physical things happening in your eyeball, that when you age or when you have genetics, but it doesn't mean that you cannot optimize your vision. People always say, I'm blind without my glasses. I'm like, oh, really? And then they have a minor little prescription. But you know how we talk about our eyes? I can't see anything. I'm like, I think you do.
Yes. So when people are hungry, I'm starving. It's like, well, you're really not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, on that point, actually, I was reading a study a few years back now, but I think it was golf, but they did this study which showed that if you were to imagine the golf swing hitting the ball exactly where it needs to be hit in order to land on the green or the fairway or or get a hole in one, the brain doesn't tell the difference between whether you're imagining hitting the ball or actually hitting the ball. So they showed that the neural pathways operate exactly the same whether you're actually hitting the ball with a stick or whether you're imagining it. So that makes total sense to me. Plus, in the last couple of years, I lost my taste and smell for nearly 3 years, and the first part was partly physical. I had an autoimmune response, so there was an olfactory kind of repair that was required. But then beyond that, to get to the final stages of recovery, a lot of it was actually psychological. I had to train myself to remember what certain things smelt like, and that sounds like an equivalent really in terms of what you're describing in terms of eye health. And again, our smell isn't purely this, it's our nose, it's our mouth, it's our taste buds, it's our brain, all interconnected. So everything you're saying makes complete sense. I want to talk about how modern medicine defaults to glasses, contacts, surgery. Is this problematic, or is this the way forward, and does it depend on the condition? I'm really curious because we live in such a pill culture where it's let's give the mechanical solution rather than the natural solution first. I want to understand that. And I know, whilst I don't wear glasses, all my team wear glasses. So, and I know many of my audience likely do. Let us know in the comments if you wear glasses or contacts or had surgery. Be very curious. But I'm really curious in your take on this, Claudia.
It's funny because I call glasses and contacts the pills for the eyes.
There we go.
So I think here's the thing. There's always, like, I know that word is overused, but there's always a root cause. And many times it can be emotional, especially with myopia. What I usually do with my clients is like, go back a year or two before you got your first pair of glasses. Like, what was going on in your life? And in most cases, there's an intense stressor. It could be an adverse childhood event, or maybe you were older, but it was, going through a divorce. Somebody died, had to change school. Like, I was bullied and teased. So something where your nervous system is like, this ain't feeling safe. Like, because you want to, your nervous system wants to make you feel safe and good. And it's better to blur out the world. And so I think the problem with glasses is that we don't really look like what caused the blur in the first place. Like, why, like, what's going on, right? It's like a rash on the skin. Like, it says maybe there's some gut health issues, or maybe there's anxiety, or, that's why we have rashes on the skin instead of putting like some cream on it. So to me, it's like the symptomatic Band-Aid approach to put glasses and contacts on versus looking like what is going on, right? Because vision is so related to the nervous system. When we are relaxed, our vision is best. When we are stressed, and most people can attest to that, like if they've been in an accident or something like scary happened, your pupils dilate, your peripheral vision shuts down, your heart rate goes up, you're in that shock mode. Everybody's vision is blurry. And what I love I want to come back to Dr. Bates. He used an instrument called the retinoscope. I have one, but I don't know how to use it, to be honest. But most eye doctors, I actually asked my eye doctor friends, oh yeah, we learned that in school, but we never use it. It's basically a device and he trained himself to do when people were moving, but you can look into the eyes. So the way he did it, like you would be a great example, perfect eyesight, maybe better than 20/20, like really good vision, right? And then he would have you look at something scary or something you didn't know, or text in a language you don't know, like something where your brain is like, wait, what's that? And he would see that there was myopia or some kind of blur produced because your brain is like, wait, what? Like, I don't know what this is. So even for a fraction of a second, there was blurry vision. So he could see that if we don't understand something, if the brain doesn't get it, it's almost like I think of a camera, those autofocus where it's like trying to focus on like, what is this? And that to me was fascinating, that even people with perfect vision, when your nervous system or when you don't see something or don't understand, there's a blur, right? Wow. So when we understand that vision varies, just like our blood pressure, our heart rate, our blood sugar levels, our whole system changes all the time. Like I have an Aura ring, right? We know the heart rate and all these things. So your visual acuity will vary, not like from I can't see the big E on the eye chart to I can read like, below the last line. But there is variances in our visual acuity, which is basically how sharp we see. And I also want to make sure people confuse that. How sharp we see visual acuity is what's measured on the eye chart. That's when we get glasses and contacts. But there's also peripheral vision. There's binocular vision. There's color vision. There's night vision. And that's very different from eyesight, which just focuses on how sharp you can see on the eye chart. So these are all different aspects, and we have to approach them in a slightly different way. You know what I mean? Versus looking at everything in the same way. Like we have different photoreceptors that work at night than at daytime. So do you know what I mean? So basically, but the nervous system is kind of the foundation, because if we don't feel safe, we can't relax. And if we're not relaxed, we will be in that fight or flight mode, and our vision will never be as sharp as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, this speaks to, I think, which is a common problem across health and the medical industry as a whole, is that it rarely seeks to understand the root cause of any given condition. It seeks to medicate the problem immediately or treat the symptom, as opposed to actually truly understand the problem, let alone the root cause of that problem. And already you're talking about things in ways that I wouldn't even naturally associate with eye health, stress response and exposure to natural light. Okay, that when you mention that mix, it strokes the common sense corner in me in terms of that makes sense. So I wonder then if our modern lives right now are partly the explanatory cause for the decline in health. We've got increasingly stressful lifestyles. We've got access to screens 24/7, more of a sedentary life, lots more artificial life, chronic stress, mental health disorders. What role do these actually play, do you think, in the decline of eye health?
I think they play a big role, and I do see a pattern with certain vision conditions. For instance, nearsightedness, there is more of a fear of anxiety, of fear, like in that whole nervous system, right? That emotional state. Versus farsightedness is more frustration and anger and impatience. So there is a correlation. Cataracts could be, which we often get in our 60s, right? That like this clouding of the lens. There's like not enough joy in life. You know, a lot of times people retire. Now there's this like, what's your purpose? There's a darkness. Glaucoma is a pressure related condition. So a lot of times if you put so much pressure on yourself, right, you always have to have all the ducks in a row, you know, like you never, you know what I mean? Like, and who doesn't have pressure in our life? You know, we all do. And I see that with screens too, that loss of peripheral vision. So there is a difference between the central vision where we see sharpest and then the peripheral field up to the side and up, you know, top and down. And the peripheral field is as important. You know, back in the day, right, you were killed by a predator. If you didn't have good peripheral vision, you wouldn't see something moving. But now we're all glued to screens. We kind of overload that central vision, but we don't pay attention to our surroundings. We literally don't pay attention. And then we're also told that natural light is bad for our eyes. It's super dangerous. It's so interesting. I studied light, obviously, for, you know, obviously part of what I do. And I even say when I was born in the 60s, like we were pushed out, especially in Germany, we were pushed as a baby. I was pushed in the pram on the balcony. Sunshine is like the cure, right? And then when my daughters were born in the 90s, God, like let's block all sunlight. Like this is going to kill them, you know, skin cancer, all this stuff. So it's interesting how we have the ups and downs, and now sunlight is hot again because Andrew Huberman talks about it, you know.
Yes.
But it's like eyes are light receivers. So the fact that our eyes, it's just, I always say, it's like the ears, we have to block them from sound. It's super dangerous. Like we have to always block, you know. So it doesn't really make sense because if you're light sensitive, guess what? Your vision will not be great. So one thing I always do first is like, get your eyes to be able to adjust to the light. And especially with myopia, astigmatism, there's always a correlation to light sensitivity. And of course, I want to make very clear to your listeners, if you're in extreme conditions, you're in skiing or you're on the ocean or, you know, or if your pupils, if you take drugs or medications, or your pupils don't constrict in bright light, which is the natural sunglasses, right? Our pupils get very small in bright light and they open up in dark light. If there's some kind of, you know, it doesn't work for some reason, then please, we need to wear sunglasses. We need to protect our eyes for sure. But in our day-to-day, like, you know, daily things where we go out maybe just a few hours a day at the most, and we're not living in, you know, in the Arctic with like bright blue skies and white snow everywhere. It's really, we don't need sunglasses to protect our eyes, you know? It's like, it's really important to reduce light sensitivity as part of vision improvement.
I want to dive into that a little bit more because, you know, as you can see, I'm a redhead, I'm pale skin, blue eyes. When I interviewed when I interviewed Eric Edmeades on the show, he looks at health through a natural lens and he looks through an evolutionary biological lens. He was talking to me about how, I likely descend from northern parts of Europe and have got very pale skin and blue eyes as such. And he talked about light sensitivity and as such, you know, that's why I would burn more easily in the sun. It's also why I squint more in the sun. And therefore, you know, the inclination, I've just been speaking at a couple of festivals over the summer and some of the social photos, I'm wearing sunglasses and people are saying, take your sunglasses off. It's like, yeah, I try to get as much natural exposure as I can, but it gets to a point where I'm like, I can't speak to you unless, you know, so I wear a cap or I try and step into the shade. What role? Help me understand light sensitivity in that regard, because is it wrong for me to be turning to sunglasses? Should I be training my eyes to be able to adapt to greater volumes of sun? What's the answer here?
Great question, because I'm not that different. I have like green eyes and you know, I'm not a redhead. And my retinal color is a little darker blonde, but But yeah, I was super light sensitive. And when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was literally wearing sunglasses on overcast days. And I also had this, I guess, genetic thing where I would step outside, I would sneeze. So I think it makes sense. If you're born in Africa, you have dark brown eyes, dark skin, that you're able to tolerate way more intensity, right? Than us being like Northern European, right? So we don't really have that much super bright light. But considering, and it's also different if you're looking at the sun in the middle of the day or like sunrise, sunset. So I think I usually wear a cap or wear a hat. The one time where nowadays where I was in the ski, I was visiting somebody. I don't ski anymore, but that was actually too much for me too. It was like bright blue sky and there was snow everywhere, like reflecting, or in Greece, right? When it's like so bright. So I think there's a level where it's totally fine to wear sunglasses and think like this is too much. But if we are like, even without looking at the sun or without looking at a bright reflective surface or something, it's immediately too bright. I think, especially if you're like somewhere in Europe where you're from and you're not like in Africa, let's say you're in England somewhere and I think we should be able to tolerate that light. And that's probably something that you trained yourself to do by wearing sunglasses all the time. Because when we wear sunglasses, especially dark ones, our pupils actually open up behind the sunglasses a little bit. So first of all, we don't practice our pupillary reaction, which was a huge problem for me at night, because now when the bright headlights coming on, like you want your pupils to be like quick in terms of opening up and closing, right? So if you wear dark sunglasses all the time, then you're basically not training your pupils. And they found in dermatology studies that people burn easier because your brain calibrates the bright, like, first of all, it doesn't know if it's light or darkness or night when you always wear dark sunglasses. So the brain is like thinking it's night. It doesn't secrete as much melanin. So you burn easily. And when we wear sunglasses, let's say you're at the beach, right? And it's a little breeze. It's not like sweating hot. And you're like, if you take your glasses off, you're like, oh, it's really bright. I should better put some sun lotion on or put whatever, right? But when you wear sunglasses, you don't really get that sense that it's that hot or bright, and you might actually burn more easily. What I usually say, hats, caps, and then there's a company named that I like, Raw Optics. They just brought out a new called Blue Sync. So it's for daytime use for these extreme, but it's not like dark sunglasses, but they block some of the UV and some of the harmful blue light. So for that kind of, I don't know, 10 a.m. to like 2 p.m., like the brightest part of the day. So that could also be a solution if it's really too bright. And really, if it's extreme, then put your sunglasses on. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're always doing that, it's like you're never
training it. That's right. Never building the physical muscle. If I only go to the gym and lift light weights, I'm never going to build muscles.
Exactly.
It's I've got to tackle that, and thanks to my audience for holding me accountable in every photo this summer. Okay, so we talked about how glasses, etc., are the equivalent of the pill. I know some people will be listening to us still thinking, hang on a minute, then when are there circumstances where glasses are the right thing? Help me and my audience understand where the line is in terms of natural interventions versus turning to things like glasses.
So here's the thing. You have like, if you like your glasses and you don't really, the people that I attract, let me backtrack. The people that I attract are usually like, they spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on glasses, and every year their vision gets worse. And they feel like kind of cheated by the system because I'm following the advice. I'm spending all this money. And a lot of times people come to me in their like 50s, 60s, 70s, because all of a sudden they have that cataract, they have this other thing. And all of a sudden they can't drive anymore. And if you live in the United States, especially if you can't drive, you're basically screwed. You have so the loss of freedom. So there's more of an awareness that I'm doing all the things right. And now I'm losing my vision. But I also see like people's in their 20s. It's like, yeah, I don't really mind. It's like they got, especially nearsighted folks. What I find is they almost cannot imagine, their whole life. Maybe you got glasses as a kid and it's almost like part of your life. And maybe now I see people like, especially older folks, like wearing this really big dark glasses. It's almost like a style, but I always think you can put fake glass. You don't have to put correction in there if you just want to use it as an accessory, right? So I always tell you, like, I'm not attached to your eyes, like, but that glasses will not make it better. However, if you like glasses, and if this is by any means, I'd rather have you wear glasses than do LASIK surgery or those things. But at the end of the day, glasses age you. And maybe when you're young, you're like, oh, I look older, I look smarter. But when you're my age, like the last thing you want, like, you know, people dye their hair, they do all kinds of things. Glasses can age you up to 10 years. So I also didn't like they fogged up when I used to wear them. Like you can't do sports. You know, there's no way you can do yoga. I don't know. For me, I can't stand that's why I barely ever wear blue blockers too, because I just hate having something on my face. But if you like it, you know, I'm not telling you not to wear glasses, but just know that basically it's like you don't address the actual reason your vision gets worse. And the other thing I want to say about this, really important, people do not understand optics, and I don't blame them. The measurement of glasses is diopters. It's like how you weigh yourself in stones or pounds or kilos, right? And the higher the diopter number, people get that, you know, the worse your vision. But the diopters are based on distance. So anybody that starts with reading glasses, or like, you know, has presbyopia, always had great vision, now they start with reading glasses, they always take the reading glasses off because they know when they look in the distance that the reading glass will make it blurry. That's not going to work. But people that are nearsighted, and they get correction for distance vision, they often wear their contacts or their glasses all day long, even though they look 60 centimeters away on the computer instead of 6 meters in the distance all day long. And they're super overcorrected, which is when you're young, again, you can party all night. Like we just talked about before the recording, I only slept 2 hours. Back in the day that I could, you know, now I was wrecked for the whole day. So you're actually killing your vision by wearing a strength of glasses for a distance that the distance isn't designed for. And then most people get into those multifocals or bifocals or progressive glasses. But you know what happens? It's those glasses where they have like a different diopter on the top at the bottom, you know, the old bifocals, you've seen them with the lines, right? Mm-hmm. You know what happens? Now they assume when you look straight, you look far. And when you look down, you're reading. But now you're at the computer. And what do people do? I'm tilting up my chin here. And they look through the lower. And then that creates neck tension, which is related to astigmatism. Or they walk down a flight of stairs. That's not reading distance. People trip, people fall. So, and these glasses, I get everybody out of these horrible progressive glasses. That's about what I would say to this. It's like you have to be interested in how important this is to you. And if you want to wear glasses, then go wear glasses. I'm not, you know, but I also tell you it will lead to further vision loss down the line if you wear them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who wears glasses that stopped wearing glasses because the glasses fix their problem. You know, it's just you just need stronger and stronger glasses over time to the point where you can't see. I want to know the deeper connection. To what extent, and we've touched on it in the discussion already, but how our eyesight links to overall whole body health, and in reverse, you know, how our health impacts our eyesight. Because when I spoke to Dr. Emma Young when it comes to our teeth, it blew my mind in terms of how our dental health is connected to our wider health. And I want to explore that now in terms of to what extent does ill health create poor eye health, and vice versa? Does poor eye health show as a reflection of deeper bodily dysfunction?
So I'm not an ophthalmologist, but my cousin is. And I'm friends with many ophthalmologists. So the eyes actually show many diseases before any labs, before any symptoms. So that's why eye doctors so often diagnose diabetes, mold, Lyme. So, you know, any issues with the little capillaries in the eye and the retina, our overall health is going to be reflected. Anything that's bad for our heart, anything that's bad for our overall health is going to be 1,000 times worse for our eyes. So, for instance, cataracts, right? That's what everybody says. Everybody gets cataracts. So I just had a student actually who's now in my certification program. 18 months ago, she was supposed to get cataract surgery, spent $900 on a pair of progressive glasses. She couldn't read the computer with her 3.5 reading glasses. She couldn't drive at night anymore. She was basically, you know, really almost 70, but had to work on the computer because she had to make money. So she was really scared. Her cataracts but cataracts are graded on a stage 1 to 4. 4 is like really advanced. Like basically your lens is totally cloudy. You can't really see anything. So she had a 3 in one eye and a 2.5 in the other. And I always ask people with cataracts, what is your blood sugar? And her A1C which is the average of your glucose in the last event, was like 5.9. My mom has diabetes, for instance. And the doctors usually say, just try to keep it at 6. But she's like a 6.5 or something. And I'm like, this is 60% of cataract is related to diabetes or pre-diabetic, metabolic issues. And so she got one of those glucose thingies. She's been tracking it. She's reducing it now to 5.4 or something, she told me. And she just came from the eye doctor last week and said it's now a maximum of a 1.5 in the cataracts. So they're not gone yet. But because she had to address the sugar, because sugar is such an inflammatory thing and so bad for the eyes, right? Like alcohol, like all these. So basically think of your eyes as like the most sensitive tissue, like whatever you do for your overall health or bad things like smoking, the toxins, lead is also a reason we get cataracts. Steroid use is a reason we get cataracts or other eye problems, right? So yes, it's all related, and I had a biological dentist on my podcast and she said there's even bacteria in the mouth that can cause age-related macular degeneration. So it's, how everything is connected to everything, really.
Wow. So now I want to talk. I'm sure people at home thinking, right, okay, I want to get rid of my glasses. I want to take care of my health so that I don't have to wear glasses in the future. Before we come to that, there's a couple of things I want to do. So one, I want to remind people that if you're interested in this discussion, would like to have more alongside Claudia and 35 other speakers around a whole range of topics, you want to optimize your health or reverse certain health conditions, then come and join us in London on the 13th to the 14th of September. At the Health Optimization Summit in London. You can go to weareelevate.org/health summit. That's going to take you to the Health Optimization Summit website, and you can use Elevate, a discount code, to get 10% off. Tickets are selling fast. I do mean that. You can actually see live updates on the sales on the website. So do grab one if you're interested in joining us there. It's going to be a mind-blowing weekend. It'll be full of conversations like this. Before we get into the big reveal in terms of the alternative path and things people can do to improve their vision naturally or to prevent the decline of their eye health, I'm curious about your story. What led you to say, I'm not going down the road of wearing glasses? I understand you had glasses during childhood, and now you've got an entire career made out of making sure other people don't have to go through the same. Could you tell us a little bit about what led you on this path and the mission that now drives you?
I did get glasses at the age of 3 years old. I don't remember anymore when I first got them, but I remember my first day of school. My father was an avid photographer. He was an engineer, but I have this photo of me on the first day of school, and I was sitting there like the deer in the headlights, surrounded by other kids that didn't wear glasses. And again, back in the 60s, I was the exception, right? So I got bullied, I got teased. My mom said, at home, you always have this big mouth. And then your teacher says, you never say anything in school. Because I was scared. I was scared when if I say something, everybody would laugh at me. I had a squint. I was bump into things. I was not athletic, and I wasn't good in school either. So I had to study a lot. You know what I mean? I was farsighted. So for me, near work was hard. And I remember getting older and then I wanted to get horseback riding. I was into horses, and I tried to not wear any good kid is like, I don't want to wear the glasses. And their parents are like, no, put the glasses on. And I remember I started really quick. I started playing handball, and the only reason they even asked me to be on the team is because they literally didn't have enough girls in that little town I was living in. They asked everybody. I was a horrible ball player, catching and throwing. But the coach said, "Kat, wear your glasses." They were glass back then, right? It's too dangerous if the ball hits your face. So after 3 years of that, I went to the eye doctor and said, your eyes are normal. You don't need glasses anymore. I was like, wait, what? And I had tasted the freedom. And a few years later, high school exams, studying, my vision got really blurry. And at that point, I was like, okay, no. And I was like, there has to be a way. There has to be a way. And I found a book in one bookstore back in the day. There was no Google, no nothing. And that book helped me through my 20s and mid-30s to stay out of glasses. In the mid-30s, difficult marriage and divorce, I was back in glasses. And then a few years into that, noticing how quickly my vision got worse, right? I was in my early 40s. I was like, wait a moment, I've done this before. There has to be a way. And then I got really into this. And that's when we had the internet. And then, I started researching and ended up finding a coach and working with a teacher, and then then I studied this myself. And that's when I really made it my career. So I always thought the problem that I had is now that my biggest joy in terms of helping other people to do that. But I did it twice in my life. And I think I was so determined because the glasses were such a, like, I went from like being bullied and teased and nobody looking at me to boys being like, you have beautiful eyes. And like, you know what I mean? So for me, it was so important to not wear glasses, but other people like, what's your problem with glasses? You know what I mean? And that led me down that path of, and so anyway, that's the story. It's basically, and now I'm in my mid 60s and I see like basically nobody my age not wearing glasses. They all wear glasses or bifocals. And here's the thing I do want to say to your listeners, reading glasses. So people with presbyopia, they often have a higher drive to improve their vision because they have such great memory of having perfect vision. Like when you hit your 40s or 50s and you can't really read the small print anymore, you will be more attached to like improving your vision than somebody who's been wearing glasses for like 40, 50 years. It's almost like they can't even imagine not ever seeing, you know what I mean? Like but, people with reading glasses seem so innocent. And it doesn't matter if it's the drugstore readers for the pound or the euro or the dollar or the $500 glasses from the eye doctor. You wear them for a few years. Sometimes it takes just 1-2 years. Sometimes it takes 10 years. Before you know it, your distance vision is shot. Now you can't drive without glasses anymore. And that happens to every single person. And to me, not seeing anything clearly at any distance, I don't know about you, but it seems pretty scary to me that I'm now tethered to glasses no matter what I do or what distance I'm looking at. It's scary to me.
Absolutely. I mean, your story really highlights the underlying cause in a way. Stressful moments of your life led to adverse eye health. That's clearly hints at part of the solution. So can you walk us through the kind of formula of an alternate path? What is the alternate path to glasses? What are the key methods that, firstly, let's address people who already wear glasses. What are some of the steps that they can take to escape wearing glasses or to give up wearing glasses? And then we'll come to people like me who are looking to prevent that from becoming a future.
So let's talk about the first one. So I always start with, first of all, I educate people on what prescriptions means and even understanding their vision, because a lot of times I'm not sure if I'm farsighted or nearsighted, or I think I have this thing called astigmatism. I'm not sure. So we want to look at like what's actually going on. And then what I call strains and gains, it's connecting to what we talked about earlier, like how your vision varies. Like what are the things that make your vision better? And what does it make worse? And sometimes people are like, yeah, in the morning, my vision is better than in the evening, or when I'm outside, my vision is better, or when I'm on vacation, or so we basically want to connect like the triggers that make your vision worse, like, because everybody has them. So we're looking at that. And then the next thing is like, when you do not wear where are things in your life where you don't need your glasses? Maybe you're farsighted and you can actually go on a hike or be in the garden, or like you don't really need your glasses. Because I tell people the old approach was throw your glasses away, but you can't be on the computer. Because I see, for those of you watching, if you have a nearsighted person and they're like, they're literally like crawling into the screen, or you're farsighted and you're sitting like at the end of the, so especially if we have to be productive, we have to read emails. We have it doesn't help you if you sit there like squinting, because now you're straining, right? Now you're crunching your eyeballs together. That is actually making it worse. So we always want to figure out like what are the tasks that you do need glasses, but do you really need those strong progressive glasses, or can you maybe wear, if you're farsighted, some drugstore readers? Like, you know what I mean? Like tuning into like what you really need for that task and for that distance. Anything that you can do without glasses, do without glasses. So driving is one of those things where like safety first. Usually people wear their prescription glasses for driving until they are feeling like more confident to step down. And obviously, you want to make sure that your vision is well enough to drive without glasses, or with weaker glasses. That's really important. But for everything else, it's more like, are you okay chopping your vegetables? Like, so that's first important. Then we're working on the light sensitivity and like reducing that, and then resting your eyes. Stuff that we do is we do something called palming. You close your eyes. Some people call it cupping. but you really want to learn how to relax your eyes through rest. And so when you close your eyes and you cover them with your cupped hands, that really helps with lubricating your eyes. In your mind, you're not like going like, okay, what am I doing for the rest of the day? I have this to do. So you really want to like relax your whole, like your mind, like get into like a guided meditation or like something that where you're like, I can really let go. I can totally relax. So we want to teach you how you can relax your whole body, eyes, and mind, basically through this palming meditations. We want to like sunlight. And then the third aspect is really movement. So we have 4 types of eye movement. And one of the movements that is very impaired with people with poor vision is called the saccadic eye movements or saccades. So those are little mini jumps the eyes make. And so I have different techniques that I teach in my programs, how you can improve those eye movements so that your vision can be as good as somebody with perfect vision. So a lot of times, just like blinking, blinking is another thing. Blinking, people with poor vision don't blink. They stare at something like, and breathing, right? A lot of times we don't breathe well. So I also work with the body. I do myofascial release. A lot of times we have a lot of tension in our body, and not just in the neck and shoulders. Everybody's like, oh, my shoulders are so tight, but maybe in your abdomen. So if your diaphragm can't move, right, the brain needs more oxygen than any other part of the body. So we want to make sure that we can breathe freely, that we can relax, your vision, that you learn how to move to wherever you want to look, you want to move your head. A lot of times we have accumulated bad habits in terms of posture, which is related to astigmatism. So we work, and then we look at like dimmer light, night vision versus day vision, different distances, right? So yeah, it's like, it's going through all the different steps, but it always starts with not wearing glasses when you don't need to wear them. And then really, it's not so much eye exercises. Some of the things I teach you can call them exercises, but I give you an example. I had a student, he owned several gyms. He was a fitness guy, and he always approached it like so many reps. Okay, you told me the swing technique, 100 reps. And I said, he came back, I did it every day, 100 swings for 2 weeks. I'm like, well, how did your eyes feel after that? I wasn't paying attention to that. So it's a lot of the things are, because it's a sense, it's about tuning in. Like, what does this trigger? Maybe when I'm doing a swing where I move my head, it goes easy to the right, but challenging to the left. Or like, we really want to be more aware and pay attention. So it's not like mechanical exercises so much. You talked about the golfer. I love that example. Because if it's just an exercise and like, this is how you place your feet, this is how you move your body, this is how you tilt, how you pivot your this, if it's without, if you just talk about the muscles working, you're probably doing a crappy golf swing, but you have to connect to that, imagination, to that goal, so that we have to be really mindful. And I know that word is so overused, but it's very important with the techniques to be mindful, because I say, why do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of palming if you get the same results in 2 minutes? But you don't know that if you're not willing to like be mindful about the things, if you just want that protocol, right, without really checking in. So that is really important. And so it's less about the exact protocol, like do it like how you do crunches, like, oh, I'm doing so many crunches. That's not how vision improvement works, really. It's a lot more awareness, attention, and mindfulness.
Well, even the best trainers in the world, the physical trainers, will say that it's still about mind-body connection. You can bang out 10 crunches, but if you aren't actually paying attention to the form and the body connection. I worked with an incredible trainer from London several years back, and he worked so much on mind-body connection in the work to make sure that I was triggering the muscle correctly, that there was so much to it. There's a lot of biomechanics that just get overlooked in the kind of modern physical world. So that makes perfect sense. And it sounds like a lot of the things you're talking about there would also be relevant to someone who has healthy eyes in order to help prevent decline. But what else can other people who don't wear glasses do? Are there other things, lifestyle choices, nutrition? What role do these play? What are some of the habits people can develop alongside what you've just described to actually prevent decline of their eyes?
So, like I said, everything else that we know is good. We do need natural light. Go outside, get your steps in, maybe drink your morning coffee while you're going for a walk. pay attention. Like there's a simple thing that I teach called color of the day. So color, you pick a color, and then as you, like, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a train, a bus, if you're walking, notice that color. And all of a sudden be like, I never noticed there was a red house or whatever. So because eyesight happens in the present moment, okay? Hindsight, a memory that's in the past, and then foresight or visualizations in the future. And so many times our mind is not in the present moment. We're thinking about something, but we're like literally walking and we're like, how did I even get here? I didn't pay attention to anything, right? So paying attention, and doesn't mean we have to do that all the time, but those are things like focusing on take your glasses off. What do I notice? Those are all important aspects of like just tuning in and paying attention. And when it comes to your overall health, blood sugar management, blood pressure management, eating a clean, healthy diet. I don't care if you're vegan or an omnivore or a carnivore. The eyes need lutein, zeaxanthin. We need astaxanthin. So we need those, a lot of plants. That's why the color of the rainbows, I know we have it over and over and over again, but those things are all important, right? We need to make sure that the eyes get the nutrients they need. We need sleep. We need hydration, drink your water. All those factors are important to eye health. So it's like whatever you already heard, it's like, it's not that different for the eyes. And then get your eyes also used to different distances. And again, I don't like those mechanical, like sometimes we call them pencil push-ups. Some eye doctors talk about pencil push-ups. I'm more like place your computer in front of a window. Like I can look up and I'm looking, I don't know how many feet or meters in the distance. Make it easy for yourself, set up your environment if you can in a way that supports your eye health instead of the 20-20-20 rule. Many optometrists love the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, get up for 20 seconds, look 20 feet in the distance. I'm like, who is doing that? Who sets a time? Nobody is, right? I'm all about
Dave Asprey, probably.
Don't like make your environment work for you. Have things in the periphery. Don't sit in a dark room with your screen on. Have a window. Like make it easy for your eyes to be interested in the world. Like have fun things to look at. Basic stuff.
Yes. So in conclusion, then, for those who already wear glasses, there is a very real hope that they can actually find life without them through following some of the steps we've talked about today. Can you give an example or a case study that of someone that really didn't believe that was possible and they were able to turn it around?
Well, it's hard to say with people that don't believe it's possible. I mean,
yes,
the mindset is so important. So I think I feel like first of all, you have to believe it's possible, because what did Henry Ford say? Whether you can or you can't, it's yes, you're right.
Yes.
So I think we do have to believe that this is possible for us. And remind me exactly, what was your question? No, I got distracted.
But I was just curious about an example of someone who was skeptical, but they turned it around, because I know that there will be people who've listened and thought, yeah, but I've worn glasses all my life. Yeah, I can't see without them. And the narrative that they tell themselves prevents them perhaps from even embracing something in the way you've described. But
okay. So I had a student in my program. She's from Austin, and that was a few years ago. And she had a restriction on her driving license for 40 years, 40. And she just told me like a year ago. So she said, I got rid of my restriction. I can now drive officially without glasses. So that's an example. It has been 40 years.
Wow.
I have so many success stories. I told you about the one earlier who can now drive at night in the dark sky community. Her cataracts have improved. She can now read the computer without glasses. And before, she couldn't even do it with a plus 325. We have, here's the thing I also wanted to know. Think about, don't even think about, I can just do everything without glasses. What if you improve your ability to do things with glasses? What if you get into lower glasses strength? There's actually something called myopic macular degeneration. So if you are nearsighted with the elongated eyeball, your risk of cataracts, macular degeneration, retinal detachment, glaucoma is actually way higher. So even if you go from like a -8 to like a -4, that will help your eyes so much. And you can now do so many more things without glasses, right? So you know how they say instead of running a marathon, start by running a mile, or do little baby steps because once you get started and you see success, right? And also the other thing is like, don't think, this is a question I get all the time. You'd think you didn't ask me that, but how long does it take and how quick can I see results? I'm like,
yes,
I don't know. Some people see results in a week. Some people do my 3-week program and they can ditch their glasses, and other people, it takes a couple of years. But I also want you to know this. I just had a student in my program. She's been doing it for 25 years, worked with other people, did it herself, didn't really see results. And now she's like, I can't believe I can be on the computer. I can read the chat. This is the first time that I can do this. And I've tried this for 25 years. So sometimes people do it on their own. They read a book and they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Right? Because like with everything in life, I realized at some point, I need a coach. I need a coach. I need somebody to help me. It doesn't matter if it's strength training or yoga or business. I can't figure this out myself, because otherwise, and then you try it yourself and you put all the energy in, you see no results and like, this isn't working. Webinars aren't working anymore. Or strength training is like, you know what I mean? It's like, get a freaking coach to help you.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an illuminating conversation, pun intended. And I look forward to meeting you in person in London. And to everyone at home watching this, if you don't know what we're talking about the Health Optimization Summit coming up on the 13th and 14th in London. You can go to weareelevate.org/health summit and you can enter Elevate to get 10% off your ticket. So come and join us there to hear from Claudia, but 35 plus other speakers. This could be live sessions, talks, workshops. It's going to be an incredible way to learn how you can improve your health, your well-being, longevity. And naturally, there's going to be some amazing things there across mind, body, and even how to improve your home environment and increase natural light. In fact, there's one of the topics is one of the natural light exposure. So there's going to be so much there, so do check that out. But Claudia, I'm very interested as well, for those who are watching today, they want to find out more specifically about your work. Could you tell us a little about the programs that you offer and how people can connect with the work that you're doing yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you're asking. So I do, first of all, I'm on Instagram, on YouTube, and I try to do a lot of stuff for free. We just wrapped up a free 4-day course. But the other thing is I have a 3-day program called 21 Days to Better Eyesight Experience. And I created that as an easy way in to just get started with the fundamentals. You get a little protocol at the end. That one doesn't go into glasses and measuring your vision and all this stuff. But it's like, I try to do it low friction, like 5 minutes a day, do something, right? And some people were able to ditch their glasses after that, but everybody, or get rid of migraines, or just understand that it's not about a ton of eye exercises. So that's my introductory program. And then my signature program it's a 12-week program. We just wrapped up the summer course. We're just launching the fall program. That is a 12-week course. That's where we really go into measuring your vision, understanding your prescription, where we go through the whole 9 yards. And some people do 21 days first and then check your vision. But they're also standalone programs. Like you can do either or. So those are my 2 key offerings. And I'm running my first certification program. So I'm trying to make more mini-me's so that there's more people doing this work in the world. Yeah. So that's basically what I'm offering is right now. And then I have a membership, which is right now more a continuation for people that did either 21 days or the Natural Clear Vision course, so they can continue with my Clear Vision Club membership.
Amazing. So we'll put the links to all of those in the description. So if you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, or listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the major platforms, you'll see the link below. So do check those out. Plus, you'll see the link to the summit. This has been an incredible conversation. It's one of many that we'll have on the show here on the Astin-Gregory podcast, exploring how we can improve our health in an age where we're in health decline. We've got so much wisdom at our fingertips. But it's now about how do we harness that and start to apply it in ways that we described today. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in London, and thank you to everyone else at home. Until next time, live free and prosper.